I mean, when they started with me, I thought, my God, this is bizarre. You know, this is crazy. This is in the realm of science fiction. But I know now I've had to work through that and struggle with it, and I've denied it like hell for 5 years. And I can't deny it anymore.
Elizabeth says she started seeing creatures like these around her home in Perth in 1992.
There were 3 beings standing there. They had large shaped heads, bigger at the top to the chin at the bottom, large almond-shaped eyes, small bodies, legs and arms, and sort of grey in appearance. But they looked at me with a sense of intent and intelligence.
Soon after, Elizabeth's daughter talked of being visited by a lady during the night. Elizabeth believes it was one of the same beings.
And I looked down on the desk, and here was a drawing of this being, this same being that I had seen. And I said to Jessica, who did that? Because I knew that at 2.5, her drawings were scribble drawings. And she said, oh, that's the lady. I tried to rationalise it, but I knew that I wasn't imagining this stuff. You know, there was something in me that told me that there was more to these experiences.
They're looking at me again.
Elizabeth then turned to hypnotherapy to try and uncover what she couldn't understand. This session was recorded last year with visiting American UFO researcher John Carpenter.
I don't want to give the baby up.
What seems to have come up in hypnosis is that I've had children taken from me, babies taken from me that are growing up on crafts. And this is just absolutely bizarre, you know, talking about this. I mean, you talk about this, but, you know, at first you struggle with it. I mean, you can't fully comprehend this, but what I could comprehend was the emotion around it.
I know what they're doing. They say it's time. They tell me with their mind.
The emotions are so real, they're raw, they're, you know, the grief is there, the terror is something like I've never felt before.
They're just doing what they're doing.
What are they doing?
They're getting the equipment ready.
Part of the reason why they're involved here on Earth is to help us awaken, but there seems to be some sort of reciprocal type of arrangement whereby, you know, they're coming to Earth and they're creating a new race of beings, or creating some sort of hybrid race of beings.
I used to think, okay, I'm dreaming, until I used to be able to get up, go to the bathroom, make a cup of tea, come back, sit down, they'd still be waiting for me. And I think, oh.
Elizabeth and colleague Mary Rodwell now run a support group in Perth for people who've had alien experiences.
And this is what I mean, my business is emotional trauma. That's why I'm here. And I won't deal with fantasy. I can't deal with fantasy. So it's about emotional trauma. These people are stressed quite desperately with fear and anxiety about a lot of things that they only have a vague idea often about, but often it is because they remembered being taken.
I went 3 months with barely any sleep. If you remember, I told you about 11 or 12 weeks, barely any sleep.
Most of them just want to live an ordinary life. They don't want this to happen. So for them to have the chance to at least talk about it and release all the anxiety and fear around that as much as they can around talking about it, it seems that through that there is real healing.
For me, I became very frightened that I would be labelled crazy or, you know, hallucinate, whatever it was, and that I couldn't have somebody to relate this experience to that would honour my experience.
Elizabeth has always kept journals about her experiences, which she is now using to write a book.
I saw a grey being appear, white-grey colour. In the dream, I was searching for my son, even though the child dream of trying to run away from several grey beings, but as fast as I ran or wherever I really don't expect someone to be able to say, absolutely, you know, this is real, because, you know, you always doubt yourself, but you know that it's real, and you have to come to some point and stop denying it, and that's what I'm starting to do.
I was terrified. As soon as the sun went down, I knew they'd be there.
Jane Nelm says throughout her life she's had constant visitors, and not of this earth. She says it all started in 1973 when a brilliant white light appeared in her bedroom window one night.
As I pulled the drape aside, all of a sudden there were 5 beings, this tall, all around me.
Nelms has drawn what she remembers of her encounters. These are the 5 beings she says came in quickly that night and took her.
I could not move, couldn't do a thing, and I was trying to grab the railings to stop myself from being taken. They had total control.
She says they carried her to their ship outside, and one of them even spoke.
This is the being that talked to me. He said in a very monotoned voice, "Jane, it is your time to come." And I said, I am not going anywhere. He said, why not you come with us? I said, because people need me here on Earth. I have family, I have friends. It is your time to come now. So they took me, and I was on that ship, and it wasn't until 1993, when I was hypnotized, that I found out what they were doing.
Nelm says she didn't speak of that for years, until she met others at a support group near Dallas who claimed similar experiences. One of the most interesting encounters happened one night near Winsboro. She, along with others from the UFO support group, gathered at a neighbor's home in the country.
We all saw this brilliant white light, and no matter wherever, a couple of seconds later it would be, we'd see it from another window. And Wayne goes, oh no, he goes, they're all around the house. So one of the guys goes out to his car to get a packet of cigarettes. He comes back, the color of this paper here, without his cigarettes. And standing by his car is one of the Greys, the small aliens.
Nelm says her husband was in the backyard, so she stepped outside to check on him.
We hear this snapping of branches and crash, boom. All of a sudden we hear woo. And as that ship took off, it snapped off all these branches in the woods. And I went back into the house.
She says the aliens never came inside the house that night, but were observing them from all around. Nelm says somebody else has been observing her too, men in black. She believes the government agents do exist and attempted to silence her after she went on a radio station in Dallas. Nelm says one came to her one day while she was shopping.
And he was all in black. Black hat, black sunglasses, black suit. He was probably 6'4". And no matter what aisle I went down, he would be right there. And then I got some phone calls.
Nelm says she told them she will not be silenced. In fact, that's why she's talking to us, wanting others to know.
People have to experience stuff for themselves. And it doesn't bother me if people don't believe me. All I know is what has happened.
Perhaps the hardest story to believe is what she says happened to her in the 1980s.
My husband and I hadn't had relationships for a while. And I was pregnant. 4.5 months pregnant. And everything was fine. You know, I got over the morning sickness and the baby was doing okay. And my husband was out of town. And things were going on, strange things. And I went to bed that night and I thought, things aren't right now. You know, this is not right. I sensed something was near the house, you know, and I didn't know what. So I went to bed pregnant, 4.5 months pregnant. And I woke up that morning and I'd had a terrible night, like it was a nightmare, a literal nightmare. And I knew when I woke up that morning that I was no longer pregnant.
She believes the aliens took her baby. Nelm says she's not sure where the beings come from and what exactly they're doing here, but she intends on finding out. And she says the aliens have chosen her.
People are afraid, and I'm going to be there to help them.
So what exactly did they say?
They said that there will be a time when people will see more of us, and that you will be working with us. You will help those people. And I have no fear now.
What have you got in there as far as mobility and motility?
I'm really good about
Claire and Diana never used to think twice about the breeding work they do with horses until they started to believe their own bodies were being used as an alien breeding ground.
When I was 25 years old, I had a total hysterectomy. And the reason it had to be done is because I had so much damage to my reproductive organs. And according to all of the doctors that were present during this surgery, the damage was caused by numerous, countless pregnancies that were never completed. I would be pregnant, they wanted to know how many times I'd had miscarriages, how many abortions I had had, and I had no abortions. I had a miscarriage in the sense that that's what the doctors told me I had, but they never found a fetus. And yet I recall being pregnant. I recall having them tell me that I could see the baby some other time, that they were taking it, but I could see it later.
I've also been presented with children that I've been told were mine, that they have taken from my body. I have several memories of them taking children, very, very small fetuses from my body, and then later being presented with those children and being told that they were mine. I know there's some reason for them to be producing these children. I just don't know what it is.
If this is happening, are these twisted alien games or part of a strategy? In speculating about possible alien intentions here on Earth, perhaps it would be wise to turn the question around and ask ourselves, what would we do in their place?
If, for instance, NASA someday were to investigate a civilization in some other solar system and found that civilization to be several steps below our state at that time, then we would know enough about psychology and sociology to realize that the worst thing we could do would be to just barge in and snow them. They would just either cause panic or worship. What a smart group would do would be to slowly infiltrate, slowly begin to affect the mass mind and get them conditioned to the idea that they might be visited someday. Slowly, the mass mind begins to accept the idea that, well, it's not so unusual. Yeah, sure. You know, the way in science things have very frequently gone. The first step is complete disbelief. Then there comes a stage where they say, well, you know, it might be so. Then the third and final stage is, oh, I knew it all the time. And Bernard Shaw said all great ideas, begin as heresies.